Welcome to the Holy Spirit's Curriculum of Joy podcast. My name is Wanako Oberhuber, and I'm your host. My guest today is Elizabeth Geer. Wonderful that you were able to have time and speak with me about your life and your findings and your discoveries that you've made over the years. I'm really happy to have you here. And so I will ask you a big question. How did you get to see the world the way you do today?
Well, first off, thank you, Wanako, for inviting me. And I will apologize up front to the listeners and viewers. I'm in my car because I was off by 1 hour. I'm in the United States, and I had on my calendar 2:30, but it really was at 1:30. But luckily, I'm driving home from work, so it works fine. if you don't mind my surroundings. So to answer, again, thank you, Wanako, and thank you for being able to adapt to the situation as it whatever it is. How did I get to be the person I am today? Well, I don't remember ever not believing in God. I was raised in a Catholic household, and I was always very devout, even from very, very young age. We would say our prayers at night. Mom would come into my room and we'd get tucked in and we'd say our prayers. And about the age of 5 was when I first began to wonder who God was, and could he hear me, and did he even know I existed? I started questioning God's personality. And so I remember one night I thought, I wonder if I should be saying my prayers out loud. Can God hear me if I say them in my head? And I thought, can God see me? Maybe he needs to see me, because in my mind as a 5-year-old, I thought God was, up in heaven somewhere up above the clouds outside of me, like we all are led to believe God's an old man on a cloud somewhere if you've been raised with any kind of Christian old school teaching. And so I knelt that night. I did something different. I knelt in front of my window, and my elbows were resting on the windowsill, and there happened to be a cactus on the windowsill. It was just a plant in my room. I don't know who put it there or why it was there, but it was my plant. And that cactus was between my elbows. I said my Our Father and my Hail Marys and my Act of Contrition and all the Catholic little prayers. And I went to bed. And the next morning, I witnessed my first, what was for me a miracle, and that was the cactus bloomed overnight. 3 beautiful big pink blooms. And I even have a picture of it at home somewhere in one of my old photo albums. And I thought, oh my gosh, God heard me. God can, and I knew it wasn't that I was kneeling in front of the window. In my heart, I knew he could hear me in my mind. I knew he could see me at all times. And I was heard. And so I went downstairs, told my whole family about the miracle. My cactus bloomed overnight after I had prayed to ask God if he could see and hear me. And my parents did the appropriate ooh and ah. And then I've got 2 younger brothers and an older brother, and I don't know which one it was, pointed out that cacti bloom suddenly overnight when they've been watered. Well, I didn't know if it had been watered or not. I don't remember ever checking. It may have been. But even knowing that it was a natural phenomenon that cacti bloom like that suddenly with water, they haven't had water in the desert for a long time, the timing was what got me, that it was just so perfectly timed. I'd never seen it bloom before, and here it did this the night that I asked God this question. And after that, I just never lost my drive for answers. And I remember also being very young, and I remember asking God, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. Whatever it is, just tell me, and I'll do it. I don't care if I'm supposed to say the rosary every day. I don't care if it's something really hard. I just want to know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I will do exactly that, because at a very young age, I knew I wanted to be done with this place. And I also had conflicting feelings of, I'm not supposed to be here. This isn't my home. I feel like I was sent to the wrong planet, or I was sent to the wrong place. I feel like I come from somewhere very beautiful and very peaceful and very loving, and this is the opposite. And I can't believe I'm here. And to this day, Wanako, I have a recurring, and I call it a nightmare, but it's just a dream, a recurring dream of being sent back to school when I'm already done. And I wake up and it's always that same, oh, I can't believe I'm still here. To this day, I have that recurring dream of being sent back to school after I've already completed it. Um, so I've had this journey through my whole life of searching, and so I left no stone unturned. I went through all kinds of phases. Um, I read tarot cards, and that's a whole story in itself of how those came into my life. I looked into numerology, astrology. As a high schooler, as a teenager, I had books on meditation. I was probably the only high schooler meditating regularly every day. I had a book called Ask Your Angels by Alma Daniels and Tim Wiley. And it was about how to communicate with your guardian angels. And you would meditate and then do this sort of automatic writing thing. I loved that. And I wrote notebooks filled with messages. And of course, being a teenager, when I was a senior and I graduated from high school and I was going to move off to college, I thought, what if I die in college and somebody finds all these writings? They're going to think I'm a lunatic. And I burned it all. I got rid of it. And I thought, well, it was the same message anyway. And I can always get that again from them if I go back to meditating with the angels. And now I would love, love, love to page through those. I know they were filled with such beautiful things. They were always talking about how you're here to bring love, you're here to bring joy. Everyone is here to love. Everyone here is to be a participant in this grand learning. And I just, now looking back, I wish I'd never done that. But that was an 18-year-old afraid of being ridiculed, of course. And so I was already practicing listening within from the age of like 13 or 14. And one of the biggest things that influenced me was in sixth grade in my catechism class. We had a night where they didn't have any lessons planned. They had a speaker come, and she was talking about the children of Fatima and Medjugorje and seeing the apparitions of the Virgin Mary and messages they were receiving from Mary. And I thought, oh my goodness, that was the first time it ever had been told to me that people in this day and age were hearing God, were interacting. I thought that was just Old Testament. Nothing's happened since Jesus. Nobody's talked to anybody since Jesus since Jesus was here. And certainly nobody contacted Mary or angels or anybody in the flesh where they would appear to them. Well, I shouldn't say in the flesh, but in the spirit form where you could see it with your physical eyes. I was blown away that this was happening in this day and age. So I started looking into that very deeply, and I became a devout rosary sayer. I prayed the rosary every night from sixth grade through my senior year in high school. If there was a late night basketball game, I was riding the bus home. I wouldn't have my rosary on me because, of course, that's embarrassing for anyone to find out that you're praying the rosary every night as a 15, 16-year-old. That's really uncool. And I'd pray it on my fingers and pretend I was sleeping in the bus seat. But I'd really be praying my rosary because it would take about 45 minutes to say. And I did that for 6 years. And finally, a few months into my freshman year of college, a voice in my head, which I'm now at that point very used to hearing whenever I just would periodically and unprovokedly get a message every now and then, and the voice said, you no longer need to do this. You can stop saying the rosary every day. Basically, I'd proven my dedication, like I had exercised a muscle in stamina. They're like, you proved yourself. You don't have to do this anymore. And at that point, within a week, I discovered tarot cards. I started having experiences with people's deceased loved ones, ghosts, and very active psychic abilities took over from that point on. Now, all along, throughout this time, there were also alongside all of this, in tandem with this, were extraterrestrial experiences. And I just think back on my life, and it's been a weird life, but it's been wonderful and exciting and very, very positive. And so, of course, blending extraterrestrials and Jesus is not something people typically do, which is why my first book is about the lessons from the Course and my experience with the Holy Spirit explaining them to me and using anecdotal means, as Jesus does, through stories to explain things and situations in my own life as examples of how to apply the lessons. And then recently, I've just completed my second book, which is from the extraterrestrial portion of my life, and the messages and contact I've had in that way, which has evolved in a way I didn't expect. And so between all of that, I discovered the Course. The Course in Miracles changed my life in 2004. I was having some postpartum with my first child, and I thought, I'm doing all this stuff. I've got this new little baby. I've got a great husband, a great home, a great job. I have nothing to complain about, and I'm still feeling like something's missing. I'm still like depressed inside or feeling a lack. And I've looked through all these books. I've read everything anybody could possibly write. Eckhart Tolle, Marianne Williamson, all of these things. And I started going to I'd go to the bookstore every few weeks and look for a new book. And every now and then I would see this book on the shelf called A Course in Miracles. The bookstore, however, had it wrapped in cellophane, like clear plastic. I couldn't open it, and I thought, well, the pages look really delicate, even from the outside. So obviously they don't want people tearing it. It's kind of like a Bible. But I read the cover, and it said, workbook for manual for teachers, workbook for students, text, and it was just this very no-nonsense cover of, just dark blue. There's no picture on the front or anything. And I thought, this must be for one of the college classes. There's a university in town, a college town, and I thought it's probably for one of the classes the college students have to take for some religion class. And I put this book back. And then I would read about it, and someone like Marianne Williamson would mention it in her book. And I thought, well, maybe it's a book anybody can read. You don't have to take a class. Maybe it's for anybody. And I'd go back to the bookstore looking for it, and it wouldn't be there. Then I'd go back for something else, and I'd see it again and look at it, always pick it up and read the back again and go, I don't know, this looks like a lot of work. That's what it came down to. It looks like if I get this, I'm in for a lot of hard work. This looks intense and dry and boring. Finally, I was dying to know what was inside it. And this back and forth thing with the book went on for a good year. Finally, I picked it up off the shelf one more time, and I'm looking at it. I can't open it. Never did it occur to me to go to a library and try and check it out or anything. And I heard my inner voice say, read this book. Do everything it says. Do not miss my message for the second time around. And I thought, well, when was the first time? And is this Jesus? And basically just read it, starting from front to back. Don't look ahead. Don't look ahead at anything coming up in the book. Just read it one page at a time, starting in the very beginning, and do everything it says exactly as it says. And I thought, okay, I feel like I'm getting some clear instructions. So I bought it, brought it home, started reading it, and found I could only handle so much. Like I could only handle like a section or even sometimes a paragraph at a time. It was so strange, and like it wouldn't go into my head. Like I couldn't comprehend it, and if I did comprehend something, it wouldn't stay in my brain. I just couldn't absorb it. And it took me 4 or 5 years to get through the whole text, because I'd put it away for months, sometimes months, weeks, days at a time. It was very sporadic, but I kept it on the end table by the couch, and I'd pick it up and read it as much as I could. I thought, well, a book this thick has to repeat its message, because big, thick books usually repeat its itself in different ways throughout the book when it's a teaching book like this. So I thought if I'm missing it in these early chapters, I'll get it as I go on in the book. It'll eventually sink in as it repeats itself. And I would catch certain phrases about halfway through the text about this world not being real. And I remember the first time that I read that and went, oh, I knew it. That's like the first moment of truth for me where my heart like made a skip of joy, just skipped, and I was like, oh, that makes me so relieved to hear that none of this is real, and I knew it. And I then, once I got about halfway through the text, I started becoming a daily reader, and I'd read a section out of each chapter every day. And when I came to the end of the text, I had no idea what was coming up next. I didn't know. I knew there were lessons because it said workbook lessons on the cover. I assumed it would be journaling. Like you read the lesson and you have to write about it or study something or memorize things. Workbook means you do actual work. And in school, that usually means math problems and writing assignments, or answering questions and learning things like with a lot of work. And so I thought, I've been reading this every night before bed. What I'd really like is a structure where I start reading it in the morning before I even start my day. I'll start that with the workbook lessons. I'll start reading in the morning, so I'd already got my mind set up in the right frame of mind that I was going to study these lessons in the morning. And I open the book, and it explains what to do. Do one lesson every day. You don't even have to believe them. You don't even have to really acknowledge anything about it. Just do what it says. And I thought, oh, this isn't even asking a lot. This is asking so little. I could totally do this. Oh my gosh, I threw myself into the workbook. First time around, I did one lesson every day. I would repeat the phrases and the things exactly as often as it said. I was a pharmacist with a company at the time where I had a position where if it said you're going to meditate on this for the first 5 minutes of every hour, I would literally stop whatever I was doing at work. I'd say, I'm going to be in the back at the desk for 5 minutes. Nobody do anything. I'm not here for 5 minutes. And I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I told my pharmacy staff in a retail setting where we have customers coming in, people asking questions. I said, nope. And so this went on that whole time I was doing the lessons. If there were designated times, I would literally stop my work at my job. And I think back on that, how could I even do that and not get in trouble? Nobody said a word about it. Nobody questioned it. Everybody was like, okay, Beth. And they did it. They let me, and nobody complained. Nobody thought I was weird. Nobody questioned this. And which is a miracle in itself. It's ludicrous to me now to think there's no way I could get by with that at all where I'm at now, and I would never do it, but I did. I came to the end of the lessons, and I thought, okay, I didn't start glowing. I'm not levitating. My life is still pretty much the same. I'm not even happy all the time like I thought I should be after doing all these lessons. I don't feel like I've been healed. Well, I'll keep going. There's still a manual for teachers and clarification of terms. So I kept going, reading a section each day, and I got to the last page of the book. I was at home when I finished it, and I closed the book and I said, I don't think I learned anything. I failed the Course in Miracles. I didn't learn anything. What is even supposed to happen? I thought there was supposed to be some or epiphany. Nothing happened. And as I was thinking that I failed the course, the voice inside my head said, you did not fail the course. No one can fail the course. How did it go? You did not fail the course. No one can fail the course, but almost no one understands it the first time they encounter this material. The first time they read it, almost no one understands it right away. And then the Holy Spirit gently offered and said, let's go through it again. And this time, are you still there? Hello? Okay, good. So that's how I started my first book, Awakening to One Love, is I went through each of the lessons and the Holy Spirit would summarize them in the review sections that they're grouped into in the course itself. And then, of course, throughout the book, it's peppered with anecdotal stories as I was going through my life and problems would arise. The Holy Spirit would use the lessons to answer my questions and show me how to apply them to my problems. And answered all kinds of questions aside from my problems about the world, problems about me personally. And it was a fantastic journey. And since then, I have just been going deeper and deeper into the course. And every time I've been doing the lessons every year since I think 2012. And they just keep deepening for me every time I go through them. And now I've settled in to this life where I'm a mom and a wife and a pharmacist. And then my inner world is everything surrounding the Course in Miracles. And I write about it as I have my experiences, which is an outlet that I love having with social media, my email newsletter. I feel like, is it a lot of work? And I think, well, yeah, it is, but I love doing it. And I think I couldn't stop it if I tried. I couldn't not write about these things and share these things, even if I wanted to. There is a compulsory element to this that is propelling me forward, whether I want to go or not. I'm just along for the ride. And every time I think I have nothing left to say, some amazing thing happens. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Now I'm here, I'm sharing, I'm contacting people like you, Wanako, and sharing in the best way I know how with my own experiences to bolster other people along and hopefully inspire them to keep going with their path. So that's a very long story, but that's my whole life, basically.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all this and sharing about A Course in Miracles and how it came into your life and how important it was to you to follow the instructions.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even following them and doing exactly what it said, I was still disappointed with the result initially because I didn't understand. You just expect to be like, walking on water and raising the dead at some point because the course is so intense. And it was, even so, it was still, my ego was disappointed. So,
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. So we might want to go into some examples from your life of how you were able to go deeper and discover more. And as you said, you have to me and other conversations we've had, you have a lot of experiences to be able to describe with all kinds of different beings and even in nature. So I would love to hear some of those stories.
Yes, I could easily talk for hours because it goes off in every direction. What it comes down to is creation. Creation is so vast. It is far more vast than our human lives, and there is a world, an unseen world that we are at a vibration where we can't see it, but we can have interactions if you're open to it. One of the things is that in 2021, the extraterrestrials reappeared in my life, and one in particular decided to co-author my second book with me. And what surprised me was how her teaching on spiritual growth was exactly in tandem with the Course in Miracles. I was just blown away to learn that is what the higher beings, the other physical created beings in other worlds, on other planets, they practice that mindset of unity. That unity, you're one with all, and how she explained their society works. It was very fascinating, and of course that is in my second book, Awakening Humanity. But I want to address a question when we were setting up the Telegram and you had asked, because for those, well, nobody knows but Wanako, that I've asked Wanako to do, give me an endorsement for the back of the book. And Wanako, you had a question when my extraterrestrial contact, whom I call Martha, her name is unpronounceable in our language. She doesn't really have a name, it's more of a musical sound. So she asked me to feel her vibration and to give her a name in our language that would best suit her. And so when I felt her sound and her vibration, without even trying, the word Martha came out of me, and I went, okay, that's a warm, friendly, motherly feel. And so she's Martha, which sounds very mundane, but she's anything but that. And in my book, she describes the different realms in the eternal reality, because of course there's levels within levels. I think a lot of people now are getting familiar with there being different dimensions of existence, different realities, parallel realities, this whole talk of going from 3D to 5D. Like, we're getting used to this idea of making a transition of some kind. I think pretty much anyone who's aware of spirituality at all is aware that we are going through something very profound as a species, as humanity as a whole. And she was talking about the eternal realms and just kind of listed them off with a very brief description of what happens. And so you, Wanako, asked, well, what does it look like? What is it like there? Wouldn't we all love to know what heaven looks like? And so I went to bed, this was a couple weeks ago. I went to bed that night thinking, oh, I'm so excited to write about that tomorrow. I'm going to sit down at my desk and ask Martha when I wake up. Well, Martha came to me at 3:03 in the morning and woke me up, and I heard her voice in my mind, and I can also see her in my mind, and I can feel her in my heart. She feels like love. She's a very, very high level extraterrestrial. She's barely physical. Their species is very close to transitioning fully into the spiritual realm, out of the time, space, and physical existence. And she said, I'm going to answer your question, and you're going to know at the end of our conversation why this material can't or won't be included in this particular book. And I said, okay. And she said, first of all, heaven is, just like it says in the Course, it is the opposite of everything you know or believe or feel on earth. It is a place of such profound love that there are no words to describe. And what would you see that's the opposite of physical reality? Can you conceive of that? And now this conversation, keep in mind, went on for an hour and 10 minutes. So I kept trying. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, what would be the opposite of a tree in heaven? What would be the opposite of a physical tree? And I said, well, probably it's life force. So probably non-physical, which would be light. And she said, okay. Now go through some other things. What about traveling? You physically have to move your body from place to place. What would be the opposite of that in heaven? If heaven is the opposite of everything on earth? And I said, well, I suppose you'd be wherever you need to be instantaneously. You wouldn't have to physically go anywhere. You would just think it and you would be there. And she said, correct. And she said, now, what about physical places? What is the opposite of being in a physical place or seeing physical things? And I said, well, it would be like a void. And she said, that is what it is. And then my heart sank. I'm like, I don't want to go to a void. And she said, see, you can't conceive of it. It sounds terrible, but it is magnificent, and it is the most amazing experience you'll ever have, transitioning from this extreme of physical time and space to the non-physical. And she said, but when you cross, you aren't going to be thrown into something so unfamiliar that it causes you fear, because fear will be impossible. You won't be able to feel fear or anger or any of those things, but you still don't want to hesitate to cross over, as some souls do. And she explained how souls get trapped here, which is what I suspected. Most of them are afraid of being punished, and they don't want to cross, and so they stay here, and they can because of our free choice. You don't have to go anywhere when you die. You can just stay in the weird in-between world between the physical and non-physical. But as we all know, those spirits are typically unhappy. And in my practice, to backtrack a little, when I was in my peak of my psychic um, experiences, whenever I came across a ghost, I was very careful to send it across. I'd send Jesus to come get it, or I'd send angels, or whatever the spirit felt most comfortable with, because I didn't want that person trapped here anymore. And it baffled my mind that you have all these like ghost hunters on TV. I don't know if you've seen those shows or not, but they find these ghosts, but they never do anything about it. They just record the recordings and then leave the house. I'm like, why are you letting him sit there suffering? Send him across, solve the problem. So I've made it my mission throughout life, whenever there's a haunted house or haunted anything, I send the spirit across by sending help to them in whatever form they can accept. So I wonder, it would be interesting to go around and check any of the famous hauntings here in Minnesota that I know of, to see if they're haunted anymore, if they've had any more experiences with the entity, because as far as I know, they're gone. But anyway, when you first cross over, Martha said, you encounter exactly what you need to see. If you need to see your loved ones, they will be there, but they will look the way you need them to look, so you're comfortable and you feel safe and you feel secure, and to help you transition your mind. If you need to see mountains and streams or meadows of flowers, that's what you'll see. If you need to hear beautiful music, that will be there for you. Everyone experiences exactly what they need to. They experience exactly what they need. And then you move forward into that area where people talk about a life review sometimes, and a hall of records and Akashic records. If you are from, say, a religion, like let's say you're Muslim, you're going to see Muslim people. You're going to see things that are familiar to you. If you are an Aborigine, you're going to see Aboriginal things, or whatever your most recent teaching or mindset has instilled in you when you left your life. Even people who are expecting a negative experience, sometimes they will experience what people would say is hell. There is no hell, but you may experience some sort of suffering, and that's because you expect it. But Martha quickly qualified that no one is left to suffer unnecessarily any longer than need be. They are quickly reached out to. They're quickly rescued. And you aren't allowed to be even in an imagined form of hell, or any kind of devil getting you with a pitchfork or anything scary like that. All those things are quickly healed and dealt with to show you they're not real, and to show you that you can't be hurt. So she said, you want to know what the other side looks like when you first cross over? It will look like exactly whatever it is you need it to be. But then once you've transitioned, she said, there are no words to describe the glories and the wonder of what you're going to experience, and what you're going to feel, and what you do as a soul, and why you keep coming back here. And she said, time is not linear. And I said, I do know that. Even the Course says everything that's ever happened in time has already happened. And I said, I've never understood how that's possible. How is it time can all be happening at once? But I have a history. I have a past. I can remember my childhood. And we have historical records. Like, I don't get how that already happened. And she said, here is the best way to understand it. And this blew my mind. She said, time is a sphere. It's a ball. And she said, imagine a basketball. I said, okay. And she said, now there's little dots on basketballs for grip. They're little bumps. There's little bumps covering the ball, because when you play basketball, that gives you grip. She said, each of those bumps is a life of yours. And you can have one on this part of the ball, on this part of the ball, on this part of the ball. And she said, the part of the bumps where time began is on one part of the ball. And if you come all the way back around to just before that point, is time's end. It's all contained in this sphere, and it's circular. It's not linear, and that's why everything's happening all at once. The ball exists, and all you're doing when you come back and forth from your lives is going to one bump to another, and that bump has its own history, its own everything. And I went, I never, ever, ever thought of it like that. That's why time is nonlinear and why everything is already happening. It's just your focal point. You'll come onto one bump somewhere. And she said everyone's point of transition from needing to come back to the time of the ball of space and time is different. This may be the lifetime 2022 that Beth Geer no longer has to come back and be a body. This is the lifetime where time ends for me. It may be a different year. There have been people who have ascended in the past, different areas of the ball, of the sphere. And she said, there will be a time where all physical things end. She said, those bumps are on the sphere as well, and it all exists now. And she said, it depends on where you want to enter the sphere and what experience you want to have. So past, present, and future are all happening at the same time. And we're just focused into a single point in these bodies, experiencing a very, very specific point on the sphere as what we call 2022. And it got very deep. She went on to explain that not only is time and space and physical reality a sphere, with all the different points on it, it's almost infinite because you can go around and around and around. But she said it also spirals upward and it spirals downward. If you can imagine a point at the top and a point on the bottom, like a triangle or a pyramid. And she said, when you keep habitually learning only in the negative, you start to spiral all the way down. And she goes, you'll reach a pinpoint at the very bottom of the pyramid, the tip of the pyramid, as dark as you can go, as separate as you can be, as focused in your own self and apart from everything else as you can be. And she said, when you hit that point, if you can't reverse your direction as a being, lifetime after lifetime, you just get more and more negative. She said, you eventually, then you pop right back up to source and you start over. You just start over. The slate is wiped clean. You reintegrate with source, and that personality, I don't know what happens to it, but you're sort of remade because you can't go any further. And that's why when you say negative, negative is always downward because it's a lowering, and positive is always upward. But it doesn't mean heaven is upward. It just means you're spiraling lifetime after lifetime, getting better and better. And at some point, you leave the sphere. You don't have to return to any point on that sphere of time and space ever again. That was mind-blowing, and then there's so much to it, and that's why, to answer your personal question, Wanako, it just doesn't fit with the material we're writing about in that chapter. It would be a whole separate chapter on a whole separate topic, but it isn't gone. It's shelved for a later purpose. It will be worked into another book or another body of writing. So about that, why did I even, besides answering your question, it works into experiences I've had in my life of timelessness, where time seems to not exist. And one of those times was, it was about a year ago. I had a dream about my grandmother. My grandmother's been deceased for about 10 years now. And I had a dream I was in her house, which is only a half mile from my house. We ended up buying part of her farm, and her house is still there. And it was vacant, but someone had told me she still had cats in the house that needed to be taken care of. So I went in the house, and there were 4 cats. And I thought, oh, we forgot about the cats. Well, they needed to be fed. I had to wash their water bowls. And I'm walking around the house making sure everything's okay. And it's just empty and kind of dark. And I thought, well, I'll just leave the cats here. I'll just check them every night after work. And they just can keep living here. I'll just take care of them. It's fine. But I don't have room at my house to take these 4 cats. So I thought, all right, I'll take care of the cats, but they can just stay in the house. So I was walking past the living room entryway to leave, and everything in my dream was exactly how it is in real life. And as I walked past, I saw my grandma sitting in her rocking chair, and she looked radiant. She looked like the most beautiful version of herself that I could ever imagine. She was old, as I would expect her to be, and because that's how I remembered her. And she was just rocking there and smiling. And I said, Grandma, what are you doing here? I said, you're supposed to be in heaven. Why are you here in the house? And she said, oh, I just wanted to see you. And she said, I wanted to thank you. And I wanted to give you a hug. And she opened her arms. And I said, Grandma, thank me for what? For taking care of your cats? And then I woke up in my dream. I woke up. I was aware I was sleeping in my bed. I was aware of my blankets and that this was a dream. And what woke me up was that I remembered Grandma never had cats in the house. She had barn kitties, but never, never, never did she ever have cats in the house. And remembering the fake part, the untruth, triggered the truth because I knew what wasn't real. The cats were not real. And that's when I woke up in my dream, but Grandma was still there and I was still in my mind. And I said, Grandma, I can't hug you. You're a spirit. My arms will go right through you. I'm dreaming right now. I am dreaming this, and we're in a space that I can't hug you. And she just smiled and opened her arms even wider and beckoned me with her hands to bring it in and hug me. And I thought, this is going to be disappointing because you can't hug people in dreams. Your arms go right through or they disappear, or I don't know. I just don't think this is going to work, but all right. So I leaned in, and it was the most satisfying real hug I've ever had. And I got to hold her as long as I wanted to until I felt satisfied with my grandma and my love for her and her love for me. And we just shared this long, good hug. And the whole time I'm thinking, I can't believe this is more real than a real hug. This is amazing. And when I finally felt like I was complete and I let go, then I woke up. And I just felt so amazing. And I thought, that was so good. That was so cool. And I thought, wow, Grandma, thank you for visiting me. And so then that morning I got up, got dressed, had breakfast, took the dog out for a walk. And the strangest thing happened. I'm walking and I'm thinking I can't get the dream out of my mind. I keep playing it over in my mind, how amazing that was. And I thought, how strange. I said, Grandma, in my mind, I thought, why did you show me the cats? You never had cats in your house. Why did you even lead with that part of the dream? Why didn't you just lead with you being in the rocking chair? Why did we have to go through the cat part, the part that wasn't real or true? And the response I received was, and this was from the Holy Spirit, not my grandma. This wasn't my grandma speaking in my mind. The Holy Spirit said, because you use what is not real to compare to what is real. And that's how you wake up in this world from the dream you're in right now. And I went, what? And I thought, okay, well, what's not real? And I thought, well, I'm walking along in my body. Well, I know my body's not real because the Course says we are not bodies. I know the trees are not real. They are non-physical living creatures or living entities growing and living, but the tree is not its form. Nothing around me is what I think it is. And suddenly there was like this pop inside my head and I shifted. And suddenly I was walking along and it was like I was in a dimension just beside the physical reality. I could smell the fresh air. I could hear Freya, my dog, walking behind me, panting. I could hear the crunch of my feet on the gravel, but I was in between worlds, and suddenly I could feel everything. I felt the oneness with all creation. I felt this glorious, peaceful feeling, this love flowing through every molecule of everything that exists in the physical realm. And I became sort of dually aware. And even the trees, like everything became so still. And like I said, even though I was still moving, I could hear the dog panting, I could hear my feet. There was a stillness that I could feel within that was separate from the physical form. And that was what the truth was. And so you can use physical form to compare to what is not true, to feel the truth. And I could just, the stillness of it all. And that lasted for 3 days. Um, it lasted for so long, that feeling, and I could shift into it anytime I just became aware of what I call the stillness. And I would just think, oh, the stillness. And when I got to work, I started playing with it with everything. Um, a customer would come in and they'd be jabbering away and kind of complaining or asking for help or looking for something and needing, people come into a pharmacy looking for things and needing things. That's what we do. We help people with what they need and are looking for. And I remember I would look at the person and think, oh, the stillness is inside them right now. They are so very, very still. All these things that they're looking for and that they need are nothing. It's meaningless because it's for their body, which is very active and very constantly changing. The cells are moving and the heart is beating, and it's needing to go to the bathroom. It's needing food. It's needing sleep. It wants to hear beautiful music. It wants to talk to people. But underneath all of that, it is very, very still. This person is truly their stillness. And the person would become quieter. And suddenly they weren't so anxious about whatever it is they were looking for or needed help with. And it would affect them when I observed their stillness. So I started using it on everything. I'd look at a stapler laying on the countertop and I think, oh, the stapler. It's laying there so peaceful and so still. And suddenly I was one with the stapler, and I would feel love towards an inanimate object because I knew that I was part of it and it was part of me. And it was such a glorious experience to walk around and do that to every living thing, to every pet, to every wild animal, a bird or an insect, the walls of my house. And especially to people, because the effects were so immediate, where if I was interacting with that person and talking to them and focusing on their stillness and how perfect they were inside and how none of this mattered. And of course, I'm responding very lovingly to any kind of complaint, and that in turn makes anyone else feel heard and cared for. But it was extra good when you focus on their stillness, because it was like any problem there was, it literally disappeared. And I thought, this is how forgiveness works. This is looking beyond the form, is feeling the stillness. And I always think of looking as with the eyes, so I'd always try to imagine in my mind's eye the light within somebody else to apply the Course's teaching. I'm imagining their light. Oh, we're all love and love. But when the Course talks about an alternate way of seeing, it never comes right out and says it, but it's your heart. You're not seeing with your eyeballs, you're feeling first and then looking at the person. Feel first, look second. So you're going to feel with your heart, feel that stillness, that connection you have with everything, including any person giving you trouble in front of you. And you look at their body second as a way to interact. And that's all it's for, is a means to interact in the physical world. But the real world is what you feel in your heart, and that connection you can have with them in that space of stillness. And all it is a shift in awareness. But to shift your awareness, you have to shift your beliefs. And I thought, oh, this is the Course applied. I can't believe it. This is exactly what it's talking about. Your perception or projection begets perception, or vice versa. You see what you believe. And if you believe in the stillness, that interconnectedness, and reach out to that person with that feeling first, what you see will change before your eyes, and that person gentles and softens and becomes more peaceful and loving towards you because of how you're looking at them. And that was mind blowing for me, and leaps and bounds of growth in a very short span of time, just because my grandma reached out to me and taught me that what is not real is only used to compare to what is real, so you can tell the difference. And so it's something I've been practicing ever since, and it works every time. It works with my teenage children. It works with my husband. It works with everything smoothing out exactly the way it needs to be if I remember to reach for that stillness, that unity of all things, and everything is exactly as it should be. Everything is exactly as I need it to be for me in order for me to learn how to practice this. So when I'm confronted with a challenge or a problem, whether it's my physical body, someone else's body, I used it on my mom. My mom was diagnosed with cancer a year ago, June. It's a liver cancer. It it can be treated with chemo, but you can't eradicate it. This type of cancer always develops resistance after about 2 years. So mom was given a 6 month to 2 year expiration date, with no hope, really, based on what the doctors say. In their experience, 100% of the cases die after so much time because the cancer develops resistance to the chemo. There's nothing else we can do about it. And so for about a week, I was devastated, thinking, this is all the time I suddenly have left. Suddenly, my time with my mom is over. Like, I only get this little bit of time. And I was expecting way more. No one's ever here long enough. Betty White lived to be 99, and it still wasn't long enough for the world. And no loved one is ever here long enough. And I was pondering how to apply the course. And I was very gently reminded, this is all part of the process. Everybody has to die. I said, yes. And if you're lucky, you die in a specific order. Parents don't want to lose their children before them. And this is the order parents go. They should go first. This is the expected, most common order. And people die of a variety of things. And you don't always get forewarning. Sometimes it's so sudden, no one has a chance to say anything. No one sees it's coming. It's a car accident or a sudden something that happens, and no one even had a chance to say goodbye. So be grateful you're being given time. And you're being given time to learn what you're supposed to learn from this. Your mom picked this on purpose to give you all time. And I thought, okay, well, what am I supposed to learn? And the Holy Spirit said, what you've always been learning, that you are not a body. Love the light within your mom. Feel her stillness. Feel how perfect she is, how perfect everything around her is, and that when she crosses over, she'll be even closer to you. You'll feel her even more fully than you do now because there's a body separating you right now. You will feel her love so tremendously that you'll mistake it for sorrow. And you'll be missing her because you feel her so fully, and you'll mistake it for sorrow. And I went, oh, that is beautiful. And the Holy Spirit said, you will mourn when you look for her where she no longer is, but you'll have to look for her where she will be then. So instead of looking, you'll miss the body because you're looking for a body. But when you look within, you'll find her presence there. And you just have to reach out, same as you do with any of your other non-human, non-physical personalities that have reached out to you. And so I was very deeply at peace with this. And I was content with that answer to just savor the time we have. And something amazing happened. It came out that there was a new drug study on a new medication that extends the life of the chemotherapy and keeps the cancer from becoming resistant to it. And this was a few days after I had my epiphany with the Holy Spirit, putting my mind at ease with losing someone's body. And I was shown again how outer circumstances shift to meet your new inner circumstances of peace. And here was this beautiful, peaceful, healing solution that my mom could accept because, couldn't Jesus just touch someone and they were healed? Why can't my mom just be healed? Why can't someone just touch her and her cancer's gone? Well, she couldn't accept that, but she can accept medication as something that can help her. And so it's in that form. And so now suddenly, because it's a drug trial, no one knows how long it will keep the cancer from being resistant. And the expiration date was lifted. It could be 2 years, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. We don't know. And just lifting that expiration date off my mom in my mind was the final piece of peace. And I'm okay. I'm okay. On a day-to-day basis, it's okay. And it feels like a blessing to be able to not only have accepted the physical situation for what it was before there was this new trial medication, but now adding that on there adds the final layer of peace. And the feeling that, we're doing everything we can, and I'm doing my inner work, and it's okay. It's all okay. So those are just a few stories of my journeys inward, and how I apply the course, and how it's made life here not the hell that it could be. Because certainly there's so many situations that could be way more difficult than they need to be, but there's sort of a relinquishment and acceptance that goes with forgiveness. And once you cross that threshold, you don't go back. I don't think I'll ever go back to that initial feeling of pain after I heard my mom's diagnosis. And there's no fear of death, especially after talking with Martha and knowing whatever I need will be there. People will look how they need to look. But I was reminded that when you cross over, no one is your mom. No one is your dad. You're all one. And you all have your personalities, but you're all equal, because no one begat anyone. You weren't birthed by anyone. You were created by God. And the body is what segregates us into these relationships. The order the body came into the world. I'm a second child of 4, and that's the order my body came into the world. So I am child number 2 with an older brother and 2 younger brothers, and that's their relationship with me, and that doesn't change. That can't be changed until we're not in our bodies anymore. On the other side, and Martha pointed this out too, we've all played different roles for each other in these little dots on this sphere of time. I have been my mom's mom, and my dad has been a brother, or I've been best friends or best girlfriends or best guy friends with various family members and people in my soul group that is sort of referred to as my training group, that we're all learning together in these lifetimes how to love in this place that seems like it's the most difficult place to love. And so I guess I mean, I could just keep trailing along on other things, but I guess it's been like an hour, so I don't want to just keep talking and rambling.
There seems to be a comment or a question. Go ahead, Lori, if you have a comment or a question.
Yeah. I'm not hearing a question, just so you know.
I don't hear it either.
Okay. Sorry, Lori. But thank you for being here. I don't know if there's a way to type it. Is there because I'm on my phone, I don't have a whole screen or anything. Sometimes you can type questions in the margins of different apps, but
so let's continue. So those were some beautiful examples of how it turns up in your life, and how you've been applying these teaching, or being open to learning ways to apply them in practical situations.
Yes.
And that's really beautiful, and and very deep, because it's so, usually these are common situations, even if they don't appear so to us personally, but these are things that many of us have to deal with, whether it's in other forms or in this form. And that's really beautiful. So, yeah, and the Course in Miracles obviously has had a huge impact on your understanding of what the world is, or what things are, and how you are going to go through things. So we might like to hear a little bit more, because you expanded a little on how you connect with spirit, right? Maybe you would like to share how to deepen that, or how to approach that, because that's something that's really important to people in who are interested in it.
Yes. And the thing I hear the most from people is like, well, I try to talk to God or the Holy Spirit or, you know, contact whatever, whoever on the other side, the non-physical realm, and I get nothing. And I have to tell these people, um, God's voice is a whisper because it's so gentle. And you have to begin to trust your heart. So, the very first thing, oh, I love talking about this. So, the very first thing you should do when you want to talk to God is you have to become very aware of your feelings. Now, a lot of us don't feel that good often. Like we feel depressed or sad or anxious or just in general. A general feeling of uneasiness is how I would describe how I felt a lot. I wouldn't even call it depression, but just uneasy. And so you have to just, I would start with, and this is how I started, with a blank piece of paper and a pencil, or you can sit at a computer. And if you really want to begin in earnest, ask a question and feel in your heart the first positive thought, the first positive feeling, and write it down. And that's how I started as a teenager, communicating with my guardian angels. And I have a very beautiful story about that, by the way, with confirmation from one of my brothers. I'll tell that in a second. And so I would start by just taking a few deep breaths. Sometimes I'd light a candle or make sort of a sacred space just so I would feel more like I was doing something sacred and profound. And then I would sit and just quietly imagine white light filling my body. And then I would ask my question or ask to hear exactly what I need to hear right now or what I need to know most. And the messages were always, oh, we love you and you're this and you're that. Write it all down. Don't discard it as nothing or you're talking to yourself, because you are talking to yourself. You're talking to the highest, best, most connected version of yourself that is part of God. So God sounds just like you when you're your best self. That's why people get confused. They think they're not talking to God, but you are, because God is you. You are God. And I don't know how many times we can read that and see that and hear that before we believe it, but trust that whatever positive comes through truly is from your highest self, from your connection with God, from the Holy Spirit. And as you deepen that practice, you're going to know when you have, excuse me, I now just have gut feelings about things, and I know how things are going to go. I know how if I do this, this will happen, or if I do that, this will happen instead, because I can feel it out based on my gut feeling or my intuition of my higher self, because I've been practicing it for so long, and I know how it would feel when I would write my messages. I have meditations on my YouTube channel and my website blog that I've written and recorded. Um, One of them is called Entering the Stillness, and I take the listener through the process of going within and feeling the stillness within. We do nature first and trees because they're non-threatening. They don't have an ego. It's easy to bond with the stillness in nature because it's so pure. And then I move to inanimate objects because, again, there's no threat there. It's a little weird because we're not used to thinking of like a stapler as something we can become one with. And then I take you through the third step, becoming one with people, because they're hard because we have egos and we do things to each other. We say things we don't like, and we bypass the body and we try to feel that stillness. And so if you don't want to go through the process of all the automatic writing and things like that, it is another way of listening within and trying to feel that connection. And then you're able to feel other things. You're able to feel words, and those feelings will be translated into words. And I think people are expecting a holy voice from God. It isn't. It's just you with the most intimate part of your inner self. And it is very, it feels non special. But it is so very special because you found this very delicate, very subtle thing inside you that the ego covers with, oh, I have to pay bills. Oh, my foot hurts. Oh, I have to clean the house. Oh, I have to go to work tomorrow. And all these relationships with all these people outside of myself. If you can focus on your heart, on your feelings, and just move past all of that noise, and which is why I began with meditations that guided you, because you have to learn how to quiet that. And I'm still not even that great at it, because I have to have a time where I'm receptive and I'm not thinking about a million things that I have to do, or things that I shoulda, woulda, coulda, throughout my day. Um, so the process, there's so many different ways you can reach within and go through that process to hear the Holy Spirit. Um, and the best way to describe it, though, is it isn't a thought. It's first feel it. First feel, reach for that feeling inside, and say things to yourself to help make that connection. Like I repeated, wait a second. Okay, what do I know to be true? I know I'm not a body. Okay, I'm going to feel my energy as energy within this body. Okay, I can feel that. I can feel my heart beating. That's energy. And then what else isn't real? Okay, well, everything outside of me is not what it is in truth. Okay, so how would I see it if it wasn't physical? Well, you wouldn't see it. You would feel it. And feeling is another way of seeing, and that is your Christ vision. You will feel Christ before you see Christ in when we're in these physical bodies. So I guess if I had to describe it, that's as good as I can do, is that it's don't look for some big shouting voice, because it will be quieter than your ego, and the voice will always feel like love. It will always be positive. And start by, if it helps, to start writing it down as you receive, because that helps get you practice in trusting the process, and um, trusting the part of you that is the best version of you. And that part of you will always only love you. And that is the part that's connected to the Holy Spirit, and is the Holy Spirit communicating with you. And when I first started writing my first book and was receiving answers, I'd sit down and think, okay, this is my lesson for today. I have no idea what this even means. I don't even know what I'm going to write. And as soon as I started typing, the words just flowed. The words just flowed right out into the blank paper on my keyboard. And I was blown away every day for an entire year. Just every day I was amazed. So just do it. Just do it and start trusting it, and start trusting the love that's guiding you. Trust that loving feeling. That's all you have to do, is trust. So
Thank you. Thank you.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I believe that will help many people. So
I hope so. Yes.
yeah, and if they want to listen to your YouTube videos or your guided meditations, I'm sure they will. So you'll give me the links so that people can find these
Yes.
in the show
I'll send you
notes.
all the links. Yep. I'll send those to you. Yeah.
So yeah, is there anything I didn't ask that you would like to share before we wrap up?
You know, you've been actually a guest on Miracle Voices, and I'm a devout listener to Miracle Voices, and I always like Matt's ending question: what is your rescue? What is your go-to when you fall off, reality, and you fall into insanity? When you lose your cool, you get mad, or you're hurt, or you're feeling what you don't want to feel. And if I had to tell anyone, well, what I do is, the second I feel derailed and I'm not at peace and something's upsetting me, the very first thing I remind myself is, remember, when you're unhappy, that's the sign you're experiencing a lesson you have to still learn. So this is occurring. You're uncomfortable, because this is a forgiveness lesson you haven't learned yet, and that's why it's bothering you. It wouldn't bother you if you'd learned it. Okay, Beth. Okay. What do I know? I don't know what anything is. I don't know who these people are. They seem like they're my boss and my coworkers and my husband and my kids. But on the other side, when we're not in these bodies, that's not who we are. We don't have these relationships like this. We're not restricted. You don't know who anyone is. You don't know what anything is. And you don't even know what you're doing. So why are you trying so hard to fix it? And then, like, it opens up everything for me, and I calm down. It's no big deal. And it restores my peace to remember I don't know what anything is in truth. And I can't remember where it is in the Course in Miracles, what chapter, but it's very clear in there. There's a part where it talks about you remember you don't know what anything is, why you're here, or what you're doing, and it's okay. It's all going to be okay. And then I start over again with whatever I was trying to deal with, and it's 100 million times easier, or it ends up not being a problem at all to begin with, and it's a miracle every time. It's just remembering that we are not who or what we think we are. We are not these bodies and what we're saying and doing to each other. And if it's causing you pain, that's one of your forgiveness lessons, and you get through it by remembering, oh yeah, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I'm in this world seeing illusions. I can't see anything that's real or eternal. And okay, I guess go God, you do it then, because I can't see, but you can, so you do it. And then the right words come, or the right action, or the right idea comes into my mind, and it goes away. So that's all I would have to add, is my little life hack of basically I don't know anything.
So where can one find you if one wants to contact you, and where can one find your books and whatever else you're offering?
It's all on my website, and it's very easy. It's just BethGeer.com, and Geer is spelled Geer. And BethGeer.com, I have links to my YouTube, links to my my monthly newsletter that I put out, links to my book that's on Amazon. You can find that on Amazon. If you Google my name, it comes up. And yeah, everything's on my website at BethGeer.com.
Perfect. Wonderful. Yeah, so thank you so much for coming on the Holy Spirit's Curriculum of Joy podcast. And thank you everyone for participating, for listening, for getting excited about all the topics that we talk about and share about. Thank you so much. Please share about the podcast, spread the word. Please review it and subscribe. Yes, that would help people to get to know it and to find it.
Absolutely. And thank you, Wanako, for having me. Thank you for putting up with the initial unexpected time difference that I was an hour behind what I thought I should have been, and was in my car, which it worked out pretty good. Nobody bothered me. My fear was that my kids were going to come home from school and be loud, and that didn't happen because I'm parked in a car. So thank you so much for being able to adapt to the life situation. So
you're
yes.
very welcome. Yeah, and to thank you everyone once again, and till next time.